So the inspiration for the Eclipse has been primarily things like the B-2 stealth bomber. It's like a flying wing. It's designed to be this like stealthy, secretive capital ship killer. Its role is to kind of fly into the battle, fire some giant torpedoes, hopefully try and take down the capital ships, and then fly away intact. It's based around Aegis, so there's a lot more angles, a lot more fillets and soft curves. Looked at things like the Sabre Raven and tried to kind of complement things like the holes in the wings, so you can see the same kind of designs being implemented within the Eclipse. It's just a single-seat spaceship. It's just a cockpit and an exterior and a lot of torpedo bay. The interior of the cockpit's very utilitarian. It's has a lot of quite heavy technical cladding almost. When you get inside this thing, you feel like you're kind of a small part of this, like, really complicated bomber, really. Climbing into these things is almost a bit of a challenge in itself. I think when you actually get inside the cockpit for the Eclipse, you feel very encompassed by it. When the canopy closes around you and the computers come towards you, you feel like you're sat in a bomber. The Eclipse has 3 different modes, essentially. It's going to have there's not code support for it yet, but the intention will be that it has obviously an atmospheric mode where all the wings fold back and the fins fold up, and it kind of transforms into this like really quite agile shape. And the space mode is the kind of the typical triangular shape of the B-2 that you'd normally see, but also has quite an interesting landing mode as well. When the Eclipse comes into land, all the wings fold upwards, and when the canopy opens, it kind of forms a shape which is quite almost beak-like. If you look at the shape of the B-2 airplane, it's kind of based around like birds of prey. I think it's based upon a falcon, and it has, if you look at the side profile, it has quite an avian feel to it. So we kind of tried to kind of replicate that on the Eclipse to a degree. As wide as 2 to 3 Gladiuses, it's a wide ship. I think it's as wide as it is long, if not wider. So yeah, I think if it's flying overhead and you've got a keen eye, you'll definitely see it. But I think by the time that you've seen it, it'll be too late and it'll already wiped you out. I think primarily when I was building the Eclipse, I wanted to try and focus upon the animations. I wanted all of the ships to just feel very technically intricate. So from the way the cockpit opens and the ladder folds out to the way the torpedo bay delivers its payload. If you look at the way the torpedo bay it delivers missiles and has this kind of almost cylindrical delivery system inside it, which is quite complicated. So the actual torpedoes themselves get lowered just below the ship by this quite complicated mechanical arm, and once they're below the ship there, then they have like a forward-firing motion.
So right now, this is still probably the biggest issue that we have with the Eclipse at the moment, is that this is a new kind of torpedo launcher. Like in terms of animation on how it works, this is something that wasn't exactly how it was in the game before. Like for the Retaliator, it's basically one torpedo on each launcher. It's like several torpedoes like this, whereas for this one, it's a torpedo launcher, and basically it can choose a torpedo, so and put it in the middle. Hopefully in the future you should be able to equip different torpedoes and choose the order where you're firing the torpedo. Like you could get a regular torpedo in the middle, like a different torpedo on the left and a different torpedo on the right, and say after firing this torpedo I want to fire the left or the right, whereas usually it would be torpedo 1, torpedo 2, torpedo 3, so, but maybe you could say, oh yeah, I want torpedo 1 first and then torpedo 3, but not torpedo 2 second. So even if it seems like a relatively simple ship, the torpedo launcher is a bit more complicated than other systems before.
The landing gear is quite intricate too. So when this thing moves and transforms, it feels just very technical compared to some of the other ships. But I think if you look at it when it's transforming, the entire thing just feels alive. So it's got all this cool bells and whistles, and the fans will see this and think, oh, it's a cool piece of kit. Like it all moves, like it's going to feel badass. It has very minimal armaments in terms of the weaponry it uses. The entire ship is basically just 3 giant torpedoes. I think it uses size 9 torpedoes. So it's quite big missiles. It's the same size as what's used on the Retaliator. So if you actually look at the size of the torpedoes compared to the ship itself, they're almost as long as the spaceship is. And it's got 3 of these, so it's going to be, I think, quite a force to be reckoned with. The whole point of this thing is that it's probably part of a convoy. So when you're flying along, you'll have your escort with you, have other fighters around to protect you, and you have one sole mission, which is to fly to your destination and just deliver these size 9 torpedoes to just wreak maximum havoc. You need your friends around you really to give you the ample protection to make sure that if other fighters try and destroy your ship, that you have people to defend you. So it kind of almost welcomes a team play element to it, because you need this protection to be able to deliver the missiles. I think if you just flew this ship to a capital ship on your own and had, say the Aegis has fighters around it and they see you, you wouldn't stand a chance. If you look at the exterior of the ship, it's quite dark. It's all very kind of matte paints, just very kind of dark color schemes. But we wanted to kind of contrast this with having the interior of the ship, having this quite bright white paint. Anywhere the ship opens up, really, is white inside. Obviously excluding the cockpit, because if you're flying through space with a giant bright white cockpit, then people are going to see you coming. A couple of ballistic weapons. It has a couple of smaller, I think size 2 or size 3 guns. But primarily the big focus of this ship is just the torpedoes. The fact that it has 3 size 9 torpedoes kind of speaks for itself. So when you buy this thing, you know what you're getting into. There's no misconceptions of what this thing is. It's a bomber, straight and simple. It's going to wreak havoc, destroy everything.
We made sure that the Eclipse could fit in an Aegis as well. So this is an important one. So this is something, if you have the wings deployed, you won't be able to go in an Aegis. So you need to get into the landing mode, which basically will collapse the wingtips. We will be like this. The landing gear goes there, and basically you can still fly and land in an Aegis. So this is important as well, obviously, because if you get an Aegis, you can use it as a mobile base, go somewhere, then deploy some Eclipse, do some reconnaissance work or do some attacks, and obviously use the Aegis to keep enemies at bay. I think the flying wing design is pretty interesting as well in terms of shape, and in terms of maneuverability. It should be a bit different since it's really flat. The design in atmosphere, it won't behave like the Saber, for example, or some ships that are relatively the same size. Aegis Eclipse is a stealth bomber that will be really useful for groups of players, I think, especially because it can act both as a reconnaissance ship, because it's stealthy, it's relatively fast as well for a bomber, and if needed can destroy something, but it can also be used as a support role, like if you have some fighters that are already there, like trying to harass or destroy a big ship like a Staffer or a Reclaimer. You can come in, fire your torpedoes, do massive damage, then come back, refuel, rearm, then do the same again.
Having these niche roles really adds to the gameplay. I think if you had, every ship could do every type of combat and could mine and could do everything, build bases, then suddenly you end up with a lot of ships which basically just exactly the same with no kind of defining characteristics. So I think it's important to have a range of vehicles which deliver different types of user experiences, and also things that kind of encourage teamwork and collaboration. It's kind of go out and bomb a mission with your friends. When someone's in trouble, or you've seen that there's some kind of capital ship in the system that you need to take care of, but you don't kind of get your friends together and say, look guys, we need to try and take this down. It's just a fun thing to do.